Everybody, happy Wednesday night. Today is June 19th. I was going to say, what an incredible draw by the Union, but they have found a way to just bury us into a
Uh,
deeper abyss of despair. I'm joined tonight by Jose Nunez, our good buddy Jose. Actually, Jose, people were calling for you this week to get on
well,
camera, so you're just
I,
giving the people what they want tonight.
I heard that someone was dumb enough to ask for me. No offense to that someone, but nonetheless asking for me, which is weird. I really appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for helping me out. I thought that this would be and excuse my attention span here, but I thought this would be a good uh, gathering of the minds here, as I know I haven't been on the podcast for a little bit. Mr. Todd Lewis of the Free Kick, Chuck Booth of CBS Sports, I think Philadelphia, I forget which branch he really represents, or if he's just CBS Sports Digital, will be joining us as well at some point. But man, what can you say about this game? I sort of tweeted about it, so mind me repeating myself, but genuinely, I think one for the ages. Uh, If you went into this game expecting a 3-3 game, the way it did, the back and forth that it did, and the goals and who they came from and how they were scored, I don't think you would have ever guessed what tonight was going to bring.
I did call on Twitter a Baribo brace, but that's besides the point. I agree with you 1,000%. Jordan joins us saying the front line is a Union too. What a joke this is. So I have like I've mentioned I think in the last show briefly. I have not sat down to watch a full 90-minute Union match in quite some time, about a month. So to come back into this world and into this match in particular is quite the roller coaster ride for me tonight. I forget how much I hate this and love it at the same time. I agree with you, and I agree with a lot of people saying that this was probably one of the better Union games they've seen recently. They looked more complete. Overall, they were competing with Cincinnati. It was just once again, if I could have retitled this show "Mistakes," I feel like that was more fitting because it was just mistake after mistake after mistake that cost them this game tonight. Eric said, "You're lucky." Who would want to? And by the way, it's Eric's birthday today, so happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday, Eric.
Yeah,
Good friend of the show, Eric
great friend of the
uh,
show.
Stenkonkavich. I forget how he taught me how to pronounce it a little while back, and I apologize, Eric. I haven't seen you in a little bit of time now. So happy birthday, man. Look no older than 20.
I honestly thought Eric was closer to my age. He's close, but not that close. I'm just kidding, Eric. Happy birthday. Hopefully you're enjoying your night tonight a bit. We're also joined by our good friend Todd Lewis. Actually, before I bring him on, Marcus says this team is tracking so frustrating. I listen, man. I had different choice of words than that, but yes, absolutely. So here's Todd Lewis from the Free Kick Pod. He is the best Maryland podcaster and Maryland person in general. I know a few people from Maryland. Todd, you're the best one of them all. How
I
are you doing
thank you.
tonight?
No, no, that is great words to hear. I will take that honor being the best for Maryland. So I might put you above Jose right now, Mike. So
Do what I can.
good job winning those brownie points. But yeah, I mean, just what another crazy game, and it's back-to-back games now that we've seen the Union give up goals late in stoppage time, and it's man. I mean, after watching this team fight back for 3 goals, and then they give up the game-winning goal to Lucho Acosta, and he shares why he's the former league MVP, why he's one of the best players in the league. And I've talked about it on my show. I'm pretty sure you guys have talked about it on your show. That's exactly what the Union need in a number 10. Somebody that can create on the dribble, a player that can take players on 1v1. And Daniel Gaza, he's a great player getting goals, especially from open play this season, but a player that's going to break down those low blocks, a player that's going to play those line splitting passes. The Union don't have that type of player in Luciano Acosta like FC Cincinnati does.
No, and Janice joins us saying heartbreak, and we got a few comments coming in. I'll try to bring up as we go. Two of the comments here are really emphasizing on goaltending. So Lord of Olympia says goaltending poor tonight, lack of quality off bench compared to Cincy. I agree with that last part 100% there. And then Evan joins us as well. Semi lost this game for us. Do you agree with that, Jose? Do you think Semle was the cause of this? What do you think was the biggest reason for this loss tonight?
It's hard to say that. Sure, were there
Mm.
opportunities where he could have done better? Of course, I think we get into this argument too with Andre Blake, who's a 3-time MLS Keeper of the Year caliber player, right? Where you think about the saves that he's made and also the ones that he's waffled, right? Look no further than Messi scoring on him from 40 plus yards out. What felt like a dribbler. Obviously, it probably looked a little different being on the field. And I posted about it online.
Mm.
Andre Blake was at the receiving end of one of those too, right? Against David Villa 7 years ago. So it's not it stinks. It sucks. Could he have done better on that long range shot? Absolutely. Could he have done better on the header? Maybe, but did he ever expect for for Nate Harrell to be caught ball watching the way that he was? I don't think so. You know, it's such a difficult job to be a goalkeeper. And here's a good stat, right? As we think about players that take criticism, with his assist tonight, Mikel Lua became the 9th player to record 40 goal contributions, 28 goals, 12 assists in regular season play for the Philadelphia Union in its club's history, in 15 years of history with the Union. So for someone much like Semla, I think tonight, for someone like Mikel Lua who needed a game or has been needing games, or maybe from our end on the media, have been extremely critical of him. It's good to see him sort of get these get these games, get these accolades, get these performances in.
And personally, I don't think he's played as bad as people are making him out to seem. But
I agree.
Janice also mentions, I think we're being outcoached, and I think partially, Janice, it's not so much that we're being outcoached, but there's just not a roster there to coach. I mean, when you're bringing in players like Raffanello and Donovan and Marcus Anderson as your saving grace, there's only so much you can do as a coach. However, as I was talking to Jose just before you joined us, Todd, Jim is going to be questioned about his move to take Baribo out of the game and put in Marcus Anderson. He might be questioned for putting Nathan Hare on the left-hand side, although it has worked in the past. I mean, what do you think of how Curtin approached tonight with the roster he had?
Yeah, I mean, Jim Curtin says it all the time. We're going to go out there and get our best 11 on the field, and that's exactly what the Union did, in my opinion. And I mean, you look at the bench. CJ Olney got a short-term contract for this game, who plays with Union 2. David Vasquez, who recently signed a homegrown contract, but because of roster rules and everything, has to sign a short-term deal and everything.
Some
Raffanello, Quinn
nonsense.
Sullivan, Marcus Anderson. I mean, look at the bench. I mean, you don't really have many options. And so, yeah, Jim Curtin, I'm sure he'll say here in a moment at his press conference that, yeah, I put the best 11 players out on the field. And don't discredit, the fight in this team. 3 times they went down, and all 3 times that they came from behind. And then, yeah, it's a comical moment there by Marcus Anderson, who has Quinn Sullivan streaking on the right side of the field. You see Quinn just putting up his hands like Jose's doing right now, and it's how you don't see that. It's just beyond me. And you can't lose the ball in that position. So yeah, I think Jim Curtin got his best 11 out there, and people want to question, well, why'd you take out Todd Rebo? I mean, look, has anybody stepped outside today? I mean, it's very hot and humid, and the broadcasters kept saying that it's very humid in Cincinnati as well. So, Ty Rebo hasn't been getting starts at all this season. I think they said he played 29 minutes coming into this game this season. And so the question was, how fit is Ty Rebo? And so we got to see him go, 90 minutes, and he gave it all. And I don't know if you guys saw this on the broadcast. At one point around the 60-ish minutes, they said that Ty Rebo had ran 4.6 miles or something like that. He got up to the fastest speed out of anybody on the field. And for a striker to cover the most ground on the field, you don't typically see that. And so, yes, you get the 2 goals from Ty Rebo, and that's important. But it's what he did off the ball for me, which is like, okay, that's going to continue to get him starts for the team. And then, of course, you get the 2 goals. Well, Jim's going to continue to call you a number. And, I texted a buddy of mine. I said, because of his 2 goals tonight, now the Union definitely aren't going to go out and get a striker. They're like, yep, we're set. Here's our Julian Kranza replacement.
So that was the thing. Jose, actually, I'll shoot to you. It seems like you had something to say right there.
Yeah, and this is a Cincinnati team, and as I think about it more and think about the context of the law, it was the laws, duh. This is a Cincinnati team that just came from the West Coast, and the Union, despite this roster, could not sort it out, right?
Jose, the one.
Huh?
They're Jim's speaking.
Oh, he's on. Oh, got it.
So Todd, you and I might have to carry this solo while Jose ducks out. So Jim Curtin just joined the press conference. He's on the stand rather to talk about the press conference. I'm sure Jose will pump some comments and messages to us. Todd, if you want to help me carry the show from here on out, please.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and help you. Jose,
Awesome.
just let us know what they say and give me the recording if you can.
Yeah,
There
well,
we
yeah,
go.
I'll try my best. I know Chuck's gonna hop on in any minute, so once he
Okay,
does,
perfect.
Todd, if you want to hop off to the press conference, by all means, Chuck should be here any moment.
Unlike the Union, we're prepared with backups. And here you go. Look, here's our replacement for Todd. Here we go. We have Chuck Booth joining us tonight. How you doing, Chuck?
I mean, I overall am good. Just yeah, we're here.
We're here. Jose and Todd have joined the Jim Curtin press conference. For some reason, Jose has a picture of me as his avatar, which is great. I guess that's a compliment to myself. But Chuck, it's nice to talk to you. I haven't seen you since we met at Brauhaus a few weeks back, earlier in the season, and a lot has changed about this team since we first talked about this club, many months back. After a night like tonight, I mean, what is your overall feeling entering any sort of match moving forward? Because at this point, how much more embarrassing can this team get?
Man, I don't know, because like I was talking about this even a little bit after the Miami match, where it's just like, yeah, how much worse could it go? And this is worse. Like,
Yeah.
even you finally get a performance out of Tyberibo and you waste it completely. Just
And also, not to mention, as Eric mentions, the fight in this team, right? It's like you waste this really energetic performance, because if you had left Cincinnati with a draw or even a win for that matter, it is one of those games that can propel you to the next week, right? It's those confidence boosters that you desperately need right now. I mean, if there was ever a team that needed some sort of confidence and some sort of spark in them, it would have been a game like tonight with a performance like Bribo tonight. Even Bueno. I mean, Bueno didn't really have the best first half, and he comes out and he gets a goal in the second half to kind of get us back on track. Overall, though, besides Bribo, the obvious person here, was any other player in particular that stood out, or any player in particular that you thought might have cost us the match tonight?
I mean, when you concede 4 goals, you just have to throw the entire defense out there. Just like, what is going on? Like, and it's weird because you expected to lose to Cincinnati today, just based on coming in shorthanded, Cincinnati being who they are. So I don't even, depending on how the loss happens, like, I don't feel terrible about the loss, but even it's just like allowing that Lucho Acosta goal in the 100th minute of play after just getting the game level in the 91st minute of play. It's like, you can't just defend for 9 minutes.
Yeah. It's a fact that you come off the Miami game, which was already embarrassing enough. And in your mind, you have to think, we can't let up a dumb goal again. And to your point, they did it again a second time. And the comments keep coming in. Payne, Harriel Costa, Semle sucks. The interesting comment is the Harriel note. I mean, I don't think he was particularly good tonight. I don't like the fact.
Go
ahead.
I was to say, given that he had to yet again play at center back, like, I can't even really judge him on that, because it's not his fault that he's the only sort of center back available, since McKenna isn't just ready to actually play for the first team.
But that's just a common theme for the Union at this point? They had the same problem with Brendan Craig. Now they have the same problem with McCanya, or with any other player you can think, even Odata, who got sent on loan. You have all these players that are on your roster that are just not ready to play on the same level. You can even say the same thing with Baribo. I mean, how many times do we hear Baribo's not ready yet? It's like, well, how much longer?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
I would say that's where the issue just is. If these players aren't ready, then you have to ask Ern Center why these players aren't ready, honestly. Like Brendan Craig, I kind of give them a pass on just because at the beginning of the season, you couldn't have projected that the top two center backs were going to be terrible. And even though you knew that Damian Lowe was going to end up going on international duty, like you just don't see the Glazes Elliott situation happening. And at least when Harry needs to step in a pinch, he's fine. But the fact that he's had to play center back 2 games in a row after just coming back from international duty himself and basically about to go right back on international duty to go to the Olympics is a major problem.
Absolutely. And actually, one thing we haven't talked about tonight, which VG0131 brings up, was the referee and the penalty that was given to Cincinnati to start the second half. What were your overall thoughts on the officiating and the penalty? Because, I mean, I've seen the penalty now a few times. I think it was extremely soft. I don't think you should call it there. I also disagree with the yellow card that Kai Wagner got early. I thought that was good, clean contact, and it's just quick to give a yellow to him, quick to give a yellow to Elliott as well. I just felt like the ref was so card happy for both teams early on. And, of course, that affects the match as well. It affects how the teams play. What did you think about the officiating tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's just I kind of give it more of a pass because of the fact that mostly it was for both teams. Like, I get that the penalty ends up hurting the Union more than it hurt Cincinnati, but I'm rarely going to complain about refereeing when it's just bad for both teams. It's just when it comes down to only being slated on one side, that's when I have more complaints.
Absolutely. Now, the issue is we only have a few days to go before we finally get Charlotte back at home for us. Charlotte's defense has been spectacular of the last few weeks. We saw what they did to us down in Charlotte already. For a club that really needs an impressive win, this is like the last team you want to play right now. Even at Stewart Park, where they just struggle to play. Do you have any sort of maybe a change of formation that you want to see with Charlotte coming to town, or is there anything you saw from tonight that you'd rather have changed for this weekend in general, whether it be players or formation?
I think you probably run something similar, and that's only because I don't think you have the players to do anything different. Even when it comes to it was good seeing Bueno, and it was good seeing Bueno actually do something today. But when it comes down to beating Charlotte's defense, your best hope in that game feels like a 0-0 draw.
And it's a draw that we would typically be okay with at Super Park if we be winning games lately. But they hear from the announcers, again, these seasons fly by so quick. And again, the comments are coming in great. I'm trying to keep up with them as best I can. So I appreciate everybody chiming in. To hear them say we've had one win the last 11 games is alarming. I mean, that's not. I mean, we've seen the Union be bad over the years. I cannot remember a stretch of 11 games where we've won one time in that span. It's frightening to think about how fast this team is going down the table. And yes, we're still in a playoff picture overall. I mean, we're only a couple points out from being fifth or sixth. So it's obvious the season's still there for the taking. It's just I don't know how much mental abuse this team can take, because to lose like you have against Pachuca and then Miami and then tonight and all the other games in between, Real Salt Lake, Seattle, to Janice's point, and miss the feeling of winning. I'm sure the players miss the feeling of winning too, because at this point, what more do they have to do to win a damn game?
We're all getting fatigued even talking about these losses at this point. It is really hard to know what to do outside of the fact that clearly another player or three needs to come in this summer. And even if there is a new signing that comes in, historically, attacking signings have not worked for the Union during the
No.
summer. So it's just like, oh, what do I look forward to, even if there's a new signing? Because I kind of have to just wonder, oh, are they just for next year?
Okay, so let's say if in your perfect world you have the money to spend, what do you add to this team? Because I think you can make arguments across the board, top to bottom. You need replacements and change all positions. But what do you think is the biggest point of emphasis? I think the easy answer is, oh well, Carranza is gone. Rebo obviously is still an unknown. So what would you think?
I think it's a midfielder.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Like number one, I think, because even when you go back, the position that has not been replaced, and I hate needing to bring him up, but it's Jamir Montero. Just when it comes to that shuttling creative midfielder, because Daniel Gazdag prefers being further forward and not needing to drop back to create with the ball. And while like Jack McGlenn does a lot of creative work, it's still just a different style than having inappropriate shuttling midfielder. And it just leaves the strikers and Gazdag on an island at times.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Todd's joined us. The press conference from Jim Curtin must be over. I'm very interested to hear what they say. Jose's joining us again as well. So we're going to bring him back in 1 second here. Oh, sorry, Todd. I didn't mean to take you out there. There you go. Guys, me and Chuck have just been suffering together, and along with all the fans. And guys, thank you again for the comments. They've been great comments, trying to keep up. Tell us, what did Coach Curtin say? And if he said uncharacteristic, so help me God, I want to flip out. Jose, you go first.
I think I caught one. I could be wrong.
No.
I think I caught one of those. Am I wrong, Todd?
You might be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. He looks defeated. Which obviously, you go winless in 5, having won in a month and a day at this point, allowing 7 goals in 3 games. Like it's defeating, right? And I think that, to me, the one of the biggest takeaways was when asked about the defensive woes, Curtin says, yeah, everything's hitting the back of the net right now. Guys are defending a little differently than usual. It's like, well, no shit.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? It's one of those, like, okay, I don't know. That just sounds like a quite a bit of fodder, just like a wet fart into the microphone. I don't know, Todd. I could be wrong, but this absolutely looked like Jim. I hate to say at his lowest, but in the 2.5 years now, I don't know, Mike, that I've been sort of covering the team, that like this is as defeated as I've seen him. And obviously we saw him after Pachuca like a wet dog in his suit. So like not good.
Listen, we're joined by another guest tonight. Todd, I'll get to you in a second. I'm going to step down and produce the show. So I'm going to throw the comments up. I'm going to put my replacement in now, Kyle and Jillian Almany from the One Team League Girl. And then Todd, we'll go to your comment next.
All the way from Vegas, may we add. Kyle, Jillian, thank you for joining us. Todd, continue your thought here, your train of thought in terms of the press conference and what you saw, and then maybe we'll toss it over to Kyle and Jillian and get some reactions from Chuck as well in terms of what he's hearing from us right now. What do you think, Todd, about what was probably not even 10 minutes, right? That was pretty quick.
Yeah, it was 10 minutes. It might have been just under 10, actually. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, these last couple games, Jim Curtin looks absolutely defeated. And what he said tonight is different than what he said, I think, the last couple games, where he says he feels so bad for the players because, like we were talking about, Jose, right before we joined the press conference, where the Union go down 3 times tonight, and they battle back to get all 3 goals to tie this game up. And the players gave everything tonight. And yeah, I mean, he was talking about Ty Baribo, just saying, it's not just about the goals tonight. Yeah, the goals are great, and hopefully he can continue this. But it was his work that he did off the ball. I mean, he literally said, yeah, Leon Flock died on the field for us tonight. I mean, you look at all these players that just put in so much. And like I said, I mean, fans can be disappointed with how this team plays, but I don't think their mentality can be questioned. I mean, you go down 3 goals in Cincinnati and you find a way to
Mhm.
tie it up. I mean, the 91st minute, you get a game tying goal with Ty Baribo after, Cincinnati's parking bus playing in a low block, not allowing you guys to send any crosses in. And the Union get a goal with Ty Baribo. So, I mean, the players absolutely gave everything tonight. And, Jim just seems like he's lost. I mean, he even said it right. The formation was because of who's available, and so Jim puts his best 11 out there on the field, and you make what's due, and it's just still not enough, and they can't defend for their lives. And when you're trying to defend against Luciano Acosta, who's arguably the top 3 in the MVPs for this season, it's you've got to be on your A game. And unfortunately, the defense wasn't tonight, but yeah, you can tell Jim Curtin's hurting.
Yeah, and Kyle and Jillian, sorry, I muted you. There was a little bit of feedback coming in, so I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. You both of you joined the press conference. What did you think of Jim? Sort of his thoughts and what stuck with you?
Yeah, he just sounded really defeated, to be honest. Like he's running out of things to say because it's same old, and it's just frustrating. I mean, how many times have we heard things like the margins are razor thin? Put that on your bingo card.
That's the free
you know.
spot in most bingo cards nowadays with the Union, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just frustrating because there was a chance there. That's the worst thing. As I said, it's the hope that kills you because it was right there. It was right there. And we're in that last 2 minutes of it. I'm like, I would be so happy with a point. I just want a point. I just want a point. Why is there 10 minutes of stoppage time? I just want a point. And I agree with Valerie, by the way. Jim needs to lose the suits. I do agree.
Anti-suit, we want him to be a walking billboard for the Union store, right? No discounts, but come and get the $70 crew neck or jumper, whatever you want to call it. No, that's interesting because I think, as Todd and I mentioned, this when you haven't won like the Union haven't in about a month and a day, what else can you say at that point, right? This is and Chuck, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, and I'll bring you in a second. But this genuinely, and listen, I've been around from inception of the team to now, paying them more attention now than I did maybe in the beginning, since I was a poor college kid and I only made it to like 4 or 5 games a year, type of thing. This feels genuinely, and I hate to say it even out loud, but like this feels like that peak 2013, like 2014 type of Union row of results where it's just like, man, can it get any lower? It's starting to feel that way to me anyways.
The answer is it can. I wouldn't go there yet. And also I almost want to say, based on some of the comments that you're like relaying from Jim Curtin, is he even trying to publicly angle for new players now? Because it's clear that the problem is just he doesn't have the guys that he needs. Like, this team is doing everything that they can do under him, but when you have to do things like even actually play Ty Baribo and play Nathan Harriel at center back 2 games in a row, like, what do you do?
You're absolutely not wrong, and this brings up another question, right? The Union roster-wise, using what I believe to be, and different GMs and folks, etc., would think otherwise. Some would agree. A U22 roster spot on someone who's playing MLS Next Pro with Olwethu Makanya, who may be an incredible human, but obviously not what that spot's designed for. That spot's not designed to bring in MLS Next Pro talent. So it makes you wonder, if your roster's that thin, you absolutely missed with all the way through Makanya if he's not able to sniff the field, a year and a half into his tenure with the Union, right? It feels like a long, long time, but you're not wrong. I mean, the dip in form when these FIFA windows and international tournaments are ongoing is just it's just plummets, right? Because you go from, I mean, Todd, I think it was you who asked the question during the press conference about the team that was on the field tonight and if that was the best 11. And I think Jim, what did Jim say? I'll let you relay that quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I could try to play the clip real quick. I mean,
Feel free if you know how to do it. I certainly don't how to do it. Don't know how to do it.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me pull it up real quick. Somebody else talk.
I don't know. Todd, just pull it up. Damn it.
But yeah, no, I remember someone asked Tom Bogert, like, basically, why don't the Union use their U22 slots? And even he was just like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't make any sense that a team that talks about even like maximizing budget, like promoting youth, doesn't use roster spots that are literally meant for that appropriately.
I have a feeling, and Todd will continue to
Good.
fidget around with your. Okay, go ahead, play the audio.
All right. Let me know if you guys can hear this.
Nope, can't hear it.
Dang it.
But I think I remember the response, which was, I think it was just what we had available, more or less, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he said what they had available. Yeah.
Which makes you wonder again, like when you get to roster spot, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but once you get to roster spot 13, 14, 15, the dip in quality is just so low that how is this team supposed to compete when, and I would say even less than that actually now with Carranza gone, which again, Jim continues to announce without a formal announcement that he's gone, like just openly saying it during this press conference, like, well, Julian's gone. It's like, oh,
yeah. How
okay,
long do you think it takes before the club announces it's official? I mean, the players have said it after the Miami game. Jim Curtin's mentioned it a couple times. I mean,
yeah,
what we're waiting on is one of these clubs to make it official.
So yeah, and you wonder what's the point now with not announcing it, though. I maybe prodded a little bit in the question, but I think it has to be said for, got to be happy for Ty Baribo, obviously, but you also got to give some respect to to Kai, right? Talking all that shit leading into the midweek game after the defeat against Miami. Talking all of that about investing, and he goes out and I believe got 2 assists, was up and down that line. Obviously, that's a team. The Union is a team that relies on the left side quite a bit, but had a great performance. Talk about someone who talks that ish but backs it up, right? Like just someone who is just, if I'm gonna talk this, I'm gonna show you why I can talk this stuff. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on his performance or any commentary, I guess, on his performance. Kyle, we haven't heard from you yet. Thank you for joining us along with your lovely wife.
I mean, I thought Kai was great tonight. 2 assists, had some great plays, both offensively, defensively, made some nice runs down the right side. Again, I kind of sharing all the commentary that you guys are saying. I mean, and Todd, this goes to your point about Jim earlier. I'm going to backtrack a second about Jim. I mean, as a coach, you've been there. We talked about that after, I guess, what game was that? Was it the Montreal game, Todd? Walking down to the players' locker room, and I said, man, he looks lost and defeated. And that's a sad, lonely place to be. But again, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken crab sometimes. And I feel that's what the Union are doing right now. And they're getting the best out of their opportunities. And I mean, Ty's played phenomenal, but Kai tonight was probably the second best player on the team outside Ty tonight. So, hey, I mean, you love to see it, but at the same time, like, you can't have 4 mental mistakes like that and expect to get a point on the road against a team like Cincinnati.
Yeah, so
go ahead, Todd.
It was your question about Kai. We could try to play the audio one more time. I might have fixed it. If it doesn't work, then I'll give up on it. You want to hear that clip? All right.
Sure.
Yeah, look, Kai's for me the best left back that our league has. So I've said that over and over again. I thought he had a really strong performance tonight, playing a little bit of a different position, get a little higher up the field, created some chances for us. we did shift at the end of the game into the diamond to try to get a goal. We wound up getting the third one, went back into the 5-man back line. So he was flexible and adapted to whatever he needed to do tonight. And I thought had a strong performance.
I don't think he I could be thinking about this too much. I don't think he appreciated the question, the way I worded it in a way. I basically said, for someone who talked all that shit, really backed it up. What do you think about that? And I absolutely, absolutely did. So no, it's interesting. And, as I think more and more about this game and really this performance, it really does feel like, and then maybe Chuck, you and Mike, while Todd and I were away, talked about it, but it just feels like the Union are finding more and more ways to lose these games, right?
We did start off with that a little bit, because it's like, oh, how can it get worse after Miami? Oh, allowing a goal in the 100th minute of play. That's how.
What is it? Hold my beer. Here it is, type of thing, right? Like, here we go. Yeah. I don't even know what to think about with this team anymore. And honestly, at this point, it makes you wonder about. And this is totally me hitting, panic mode in a way, fan hat on. But like, if this team even finishes top 8 at the rate that they're going, right? One thing to remember is this is the end of the what was the run? It was undefeated away from home at this point. Not undefeated. What is it? Was it undefeated away from home?
Yeah, they hadn't lost a game this season.
Yeah, which is unreal to think, considering what the season has been. I don't even know where to go to here and from here, I should say. And they welcome a Charlotte team that I don't even know if they won, honestly, but they're obviously managed in a completely different way and getting completely different results. Charlotte went ahead and
tied 2-2. They got
tied
a red
2-2.
card.
Yeah, red card.
Who got sent off?
Scott Airfield.
Oh, I guess that matters a little bit, but
no, it's not like it was the young guy Malanda or like someone like Kalina or even like Westwood, who obviously last time we saw Westwood was a little pushing and shoving against Carranza at Charlotte, which was fun to watch. Where do we go from here, guys? What else do we have to talk about this game? Because there were 100 minutes. We just came back from the press conference. What haven't we talked about yet? It's I
feel like Ty Rivero definitely needs to be talked about a little bit more. Like, I don't know if you and Mike talked about him at all, Chuck, but I don't know. Like, this is a guy, 29 minutes is all he played this season again. And he comes out here and, that's the whole reason why the Union brought him last year, was to be that replacement for Julian Carranza. Obviously, the Union don't sell Julian Carranza. They do it this summer instead. And this is a guy who has been biding his time. And Jim Curtin has said, the last couple of weeks, he's looked good in training. And because he's doing well in training, he's going to get opportunities. Tonight, we see him get his first start of the season. And we talked about it, I think, a little bit, Jose. And I'll repeat myself because I'm sure there's new people listening to the podcast, but like, yes, getting 2 goals is great and everything. That's definitely going to earn you your starts, but it's the work that he did for me off the ball. He was all over the field, tackling, trying to win back possession for the team, trying to start the counterattack. And I know some people question, can Mikel Uhre and Ty Baribo partner each other up top? And I think in this game, we see that as a yes. There was a chance for the Union before who scored? Was it Acosta when they hit on that counterattack where Mikel tries to cross the ball in and then then Cincinnati clears it? Was that Acosta? Maybe not. No, that was the goal that Semele got scored on by 50 yards. So they have a chance with Baribo and Mikel, and they break on the counterattack and Semele is just way out of his goal and he gets chipped. But
it's like basketball for a second there.
It's ridiculous. But I do think that we saw that Mikel and Ty Baribo can can work. And Vince's comment, 2 poachers goals. Absolutely. I mean, those are the type of goals that you would see Julian Kranza score. And so, okay, you get Ty Baribo inside the 18-yard box and you let him just tap up those rebounds, make those good runs off of the center backs inside the 18-yard box. You let Mikel Uor be the player that's making those runs down the channel, the hold up play, dropping deep to get more players involved. And, I'll be interesting to see if Jim Curtin opts to go with Ty and Mikel both again against Charlotte. I mean, might as well, right? Because it's going to be a long summer. It's going to be a long rest of the season. And it's like, you really got to see, can these 2 players work together? You got to see what exactly you have in Ty Baribo, because up until this point, we really didn't get to see that.
Yeah, I feel like you almost have to run them out there again, especially when a lot of Jim Curtin's comments on Baribo earlier in the season were basically he's not ready and things of that nature. So something has clearly changed there, hopefully for the better, because we need Baribo to offer something. I mean, not only just for his salary, but due to the fact that Kranza's no longer here, and you can't have just Chris Donovan, because we already know that we would prefer to see Quinn Sullivan in midfield as opposed to at striker. Also, one thing with Ua is I know people aren't necessarily the happiest with his season so far, but like when it comes down to it, 6 goals, 2 assists, and at least like relatively good work off the ball. Like, I'm fine with that from the secondary striker. Like, he wasn't a guy who was brought in to be the guy for this team. He was brought in to be the supporting character to the guys, and he's done pretty well at that. It's just when Kranza's hurt and then leaving, and then Daniel Gazdag is mainly scoring on penalties, his performance looks a lot worse.
I'll maybe challenge you on that a little bit, Chuck, before we toss it over to Kyle and Jillian for their thoughts, and not necessarily challenge you, but sort of maybe frame it this way, right? That train of thought is sound to me, taking money out of the way, right? In terms of what the union paid for Mikel Ua, which to most teams that would not be a whole lot, but for this team, it's a record fee and the best paid player. So to say that he was not expected to be guy A doesn't make sense when you look at it that way, but it's also taking into account that Julian Carranza was $500K of funny money plus an extremely low salary just because of the salary that he sort of inherited coming out of Inter Miami. So, and, you can look at it both ways. Where like, I get where you're coming from, but it's also sort of the weight on his shoulders of the expectation, maybe from the media and the fan base for being the best rewarded financially rewarded player on the roster. Kyle and Jillian, any thoughts in terms of what we saw from Ty and maybe Mikel Ua, as well as we're sort of chatting on those two, and maybe we'll continue to make our way down the lineup that we saw today. Obviously, we start at the very top, and we'll make our way down.
Yeah, I think moving forward, it would be great to see what we can get from this Ua-Baribo pairing. I think it's honestly better than having Quinn up top, put Quinn more in his natural position. At this point, why not? I thought Ty brought in some, just something fresh, honestly.
No, I was pleased with them both tonight. I mean, and I'll kind of echo your sentiments, Jose. I think Mikel was brought in to be the number one guy. And I've said this to you both, Ty and Jose. I don't think we'll ever see Bromby Ua. But, I mean, I've been happy with him so far this year. He's been good. I thought he had a great header tonight to dive, but I'm really curious, and I think that's going to be a thing. I mean, we're right in that playing game margin. Let's see what this team can do with Julian's out now; he's gone. I mean, this is the time. People need to step up. So I'm really kind of intrigued now, and I hope we see Mikel and Ty again on Saturday, because I think the success of this team, once Danny comes back, I'd love to see a front three with those players. moving forward, do I expect to see it be the same level as Danny, Julian, and Mikel 2022, even 2023? No, but who knows? We don't know. And I think that's the biggest thing. We don't know what the future holds, but tonight was very encouraging for Ty.
Yeah, it was. That was definitely one of the bright spots. And that's why it's like, it was really frustrating because here we were with a real actual chance. Because I if I'm being honest, I was a little pessimistic thinking, I was expecting kind of a loss. And then it's right there. And we actually see a positive performance from, in a lot of ways. And then, of course, blunders. And Todd's going to have his picks of blunder of the week, I think. But I think we know what the blunder of the week's going to be.
He is.
Well, the week's not even over yet.
No,
Yeah,
it's
this
not
is
even
true.
over. We have a
This is
whole
true.
other 90 plus minutes for Todd to pick out. So as we make our way down here, the lineup, let's
Can I
chat
say
a little
something
bit.
real quick?
Go ahead, Todd Lewis.
Come on, dude. Yeah, listening to all you guys talk, I'm 100% convinced that you have something against Chuck and I, both Maryland guys. And it's like, I agree with Chuck where, it only looks bad because the Union paid $2.8 million for Mikel Ua. You look at an actual, yes, it is a DP striker, but you look at Yakamakis. When Atlanta brought him in, they paid $5.2 million, I think it is. Like, that screams DP player to me. Does $2.8 million really scream DP to me? No, but for the Union, they don't really spend that high. And so, of course, the expectations are going to be, you're the guy. But when you go around MLS, 2.8 million is really not a lot of money for a lot of these teams. And so, if the Union would spend, let's say, $5 million or what, Julian Kranza was bought for $6 million. The Union essentially got a $6 million striker for funny money. And the Union would never pay $6 million for Mikel Ua. So Julian was the guy. You brought in Mikel Ua to complement him. And just because, you pay $2.8 million, it's going to be that added pressure on Mikel because you're paying him the most money at the club. Of course, there's going to be the added pressure. But I would argue that Julian Kranza was this guy because he was technically a $6 million player. The Union were never going to pay that, but they got him for funny money. So, I agree with Chuck here, but I think it's because we're both Maryland guys that you guys are going against us.
We're also seeing Brøndby Ura. Like, he had one 19-goal season.
Yeah.
Every other season has been about what he's done for the Union in that 14 to 16 goal range. So, like, he is what he is at this point in his career, and that's still a very useful striker. But he needs more, and that's what we're just not getting right now because his partner in crime hasn't been available.
I think a lot of teams would bite their arm off for someone who can produce 14 goals a season comfortably, right? Or like on, very, very consistently. As we think and go down the lineup here, let's talk a little bit about the midfield in terms of Jack McGlynn, Leon Flock, and Jesus Bueno, who I think maybe we can start with. I think someone who, whether you follow FOTMob or whatever other ranking site, I think that goal really padded his score on the night. I think all in all, I saw a lot of moments where it's so obvious. And I know in different podcasts and posting and writing that I've done, and I think some of you will also maybe align this way too. It was sort of a telling of a performance of a player that is being tossed onto the field at a different pace than what practice is because it feels off for him, right? It feels like he's just not used to the pace of play because they haven't had game time. And to me, watching tonight, you could tell that Jesus was sort of behind a lot of what was going on in front of him in terms of, following the play, catching up with players, chasing, trailing most of the time, though you could argue that's the Union way, right? Seed possession and then counter on it. But I would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe we start with you right now, Todd, in terms of what stood out to you from the midfield. Doesn't have to be just Jesus Bueno, Leon Flock, and Jack McGlynn included.
Yeah, so I think I saw a comment in here. Somebody said, why don't we try Jack McGlynn at the 10? No, I think we did actually see that tonight. Jack McGlynn playing as that 10 And Jim Curtin even said it. We went to the 4-4-2 diamond, and they got the game tying goal with Ty Baribo, make it 3-3, and then they went back to the 3-5-2. And yeah, I mean, Jim's right. They did get the goal with going to the diamond, and even starting this game, they started Jack McGlynn at the 10, and I thought he was okay. And I get why you play him there, because, okay, you want to get your creative players on the ball, where you're starting to, I would say Jesus Bueno is more defensive than offensive, where you have Leon Flock and Jesus Bueno who are going to put in the defensive work for Jack McGlynn. You said this in our group chat, Jose, where you thought that Leon Flock was playing too conservative. And I do agree with you, where, there was times where he would get on the ball where you were hoping that it would switch fields, but he's playing backwards, where he's playing square passes. And it's like, come on, dude, take risk. But that's just not what the Union want Leon Flock to do, or that's just not what Leon Flock's comfortable with. It's so many times he's playing square backwards to Kai Wagner. Now it's Kai Wagner that's pushing the ball forward. Or if you see the last couple games where Leon Flock was playing as the 6 and you have Jack McGlynn as the 8, you'd see Leon Flock dump the ball off to Jack McGlynn. So, I would argue that Leon Flock knows his role. Yeah, there are some times where you're like, okay, you're slowing down the attack with Union just want to go, but Leon's slowing it down. And Jim actually mentioned that too after the game too, where he said, sometimes we just need to slow things down to cut out these mistakes. And the midfield was okay, right? Jeremy Raffanello, I thought, actually came off the bench and played well. I mean, he's the one who sent in the cross to Kai Wagner, who won the header to Ty Baribo to tie it at 3 apiece. So, I think the defense was okay at times. But you've got to be aware of Luciano Acosta, and the Union weren't. I mean, so many times this guy's doing 1-2s and running right through the midfield, right through the defense. And we were talking about it before. The Union would kill to have a player like that. And would they ever spend to get a player like that? Probably not. But man, this team so desperately needs a player that can play that 10 role, that takes players on 1v1, that plays those line splitting passes, because the Union don't have that in Daniel Gazdag.
Kyle and Jillian, turn it over to you guys. Thoughts on the midfield and anything you wanted to chime on as we, again, continue to have some Union after dark here, and not so dark for the folks out in Vegas.
Yeah, it's still a little bit light out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought Flock was great tonight. He's been consistently putting up good performances since he's come back. So that's been really promising.
I mean, I know I kind of was saying early on, and I said this in the group chat, that, I think I said it to you, Jose, I thought Flock was covering up some Bizo mistakes there, and he was, but then going and watch some of the clips, yeah, he definitely was playing conservative. So I agree with you on that point. I sometimes I love Jack so much, but man, sometimes he just makes some blunders at the worst time. But overall, real encouraged, and it was really encouraging with Wayne. And I know he made some mistakes as well, but to get that goal is just going to be a good confidence, especially with Leagues Cup, especially with being down players like Ali and everything. We're going to need him to step up, and hopefully this is another opportunity he embraces. And I think his mistakes were just him not hardly playing how many minutes does anybody know? How many minutes has he played this year?
He hasn't done much, but I'm hoping that Choo Choo's going to be kind of like how Kyle Schwarber is in June. Like, Choo Choo gets the Leagues Cup, and he's going to be like taking off.
Because we're going to need that whole midfield to step up come the summer if we're even going to have a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit over a month should Jack McGlynn be selected until the Paris Olympics 2024. So a few more weeks of Jack McGlynn, perhaps. Who knows what happens roster-wise, but he may not be the only person leaving, obviously, from the Philadelphia Union in terms of bodies going to Paris. Chuck, break the midfield down for us. What did you see? What did you like? What didn't you like?
I don't like the fact that Kai Wagner created as many chances as the rest of the starters on the team combined. I understand that, yes, he is the most creative player on the team, but that's inherently a problem. Even when we talk about what Jack McGlynn does well in basically creating chances because he's kind of back and forth when it comes to actually playing defense. This is a game where you need him to be on the front foot, actually getting the ball forward, and there just wasn't enough of that effectively happening. And then when you match that with Jesus Bueno turning the ball over more than like he essentially completed a pass, it really just does leave your defense with a lot to do when you're already playing a makeshift defense. And it just kind of just comes back to why, even in the transfer window, why I think the Union need a midfielder more than anything.
It's telling, right? When you see the stats of Kai being the third most expected assists, and you also see Kai as the most, I should say, third most chances created. I wonder if that changed a bit because he was behind Luciano Acosta and Carlos Gil of New England for some of these, actually for both, I think, actually, of those stats. I wonder if it's changed drastically or not at all. And again, as we mentioned at the top of the show, the Union went against what should have been a very gassed Cincinnati team in terms of coming from the West Coast, and that obviously didn't really matter a whole lot since they ended up getting the win. Obviously, not a game that maybe Cincinnati expected to be as hard as it was. Maybe they probably expected it was going to be a little bit easier. Who knows though? But again, I stand by it. I think this is one that we're going to remember for a long, long time. Scoreline aside, just because of how exciting it was. It genuinely was a back and forth, which is exciting soccer to watch versus, gosh, all of us have sat through some of these Philadelphia Union matches where it's 1-1 or 0-0, and you sort of wonder, what did I just watch for 90 minutes? So now as we make our way down to the defense, let's start with you, Chuck. What did you see out of the defense? Probably not a whole lot of good, but nonetheless, love to hear your thoughts on the back four.
Yeah,
Five.
I have nothing good to say about any of them except Kai Wagner right now, and that's mainly more because of his offensive contributions. Like I'm genuinely ready to bench Jacob Glesnes, but there's not another center back to replace him with at the moment. Because when you put this game plus Miami plus just everything else we've seen of him playing with feet made of stone, like it's just not working right now. And like I don't know if he needs to be like motivated or if his legs are actually going, but this just can't continue.
One thing to remember as we move over to you, Todd, those very early yellow cards that maybe dictated the way that Kai and Jack Elliott played. 12-minute yellow card, foul on Kai, I believe. No, was it? Yeah, foul on Kai, but then a yellow card for dissent on Jack Elliott, if I recall. So, Todd, talk to us about the defense. What did you see? What you like? What you didn't like? Again, probably not much to like from that performance.
No, and Kai Wagner said something interesting to me after the game in Miami. I don't know if you were still there or around at that point, Jose, where I had said just, the defense, you guys are conceding a lot of goals, how do you correct this? And Kai, kind of probably didn't like me calling out the defense. And he's like, it's not just the defense. He's like, of course, people are going to look at the defense and say, yeah, we're conceding a lot of goals. And, I think he is partially right. It's, about what the midfield's doing, not tracking your runs. And now it falls on the defenders where they're in 2v1 situations. But at the same time, too, where Chuck's talking about Jacob Glesnes, he's taken so many aggressive plays this season. He gets caught out of position. 1v1 defending, he's been horrible at this season. Damian Lowe's had his shaky moments this year. Jack Elliott's had his shaky moments this year. I would argue, though, that Jack Elliott's probably been the best center back on this team. And, I mean, Kyle and Jillian are going to love me mentioning this because it's Jillian's favorite player. But it's like, one player, again, we always repeat this, you feel bad for Stuart Finley. You bring in Stuart Finley in hopes that he can displace a Jacob Glesnes or a Jack Elliott, and it doesn't happen because in 2022, those were arguably the two best center backs in MLS that season. And it's like, if you would have stuck on a little bit more, opportunities definitely would have came because of just how shaky that defense is. And at the same time, too, okay, if he does stay around, then and then maybe the Union don't bring back Damian Lowe. So I mean, it's not great for the defense this year. I mean, again, I'll echo what Chuck says. I mean, the only player defensively that you can argue that's done well is Kai Wagner because of what he's done offensively. And you can say the same thing about Nate Harriel too, just how well he is at headers. He had a chance tonight. And
I thought that was a foul, actually. Was it the one assist that Elliott went up for not Elliott, I'm sorry, Harriel, where he sort of, I felt like he held one of Aribo's goals, basically. I think it was, I forget what play it was, but anyways, Harriel was like, I felt like he held down the player, and I was fully expecting for the ball to be called back on a foul or something like that. But go on. Yes, Harriel's header ability is just unbelievable, his ups.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, this defense, and then you can even argue too, saying, well, the chances that the defense is giving up, would Andre Blake be making the saves that Oliver Zemla is not making? So I mean, yeah, defensively, there's not a lot to like, and especially when you look the first goal that Cincinnati scores. Ball watching by Nate Harriel. I mean, you can't have that. And I get it. He's playing out of position, but it's like, you got to get pressure on the ball on Luciano Acosta. Nobody gets pressure on him. And then everybody's just amazed. Wow, look at this beautiful ball that Acosta just played in. And oh, wow, Kelsey just got in the back line. We saw the chance later on the second half where it was Orvasano, I think that's how they were saying his name on the broadcast, which is weird. I'm like, that doesn't look like how it's said, but they're like, yeah, that's how he wants to go by. So, okay, whatever. He plays the ball into, I forget the player for Cincinnati, and we see him just hit the ball backwards towards the midfield. And it's like, what are you doing? You just got in behind the back line. Olivier Baizer is caught ball watching. Jacob Glesnes is caught ball watching. It's the same exact ball played in, but on the opposite side of the field. I mean, the defense, not good. Not good.
I'm convinced that keeping Glesnes' streak going last year is a huge indication of why he is the way he is, right? He had that Iron Man streak of just going however many games it was and the amount of minutes, plus was it a hernia that he had that gets surgery on? I forget what it was. It might have been a hernia. I see a lot of head nodding. Yeah, some groin injury. I'm fairly convinced that has translated over to this year, and obviously hasn't helped. And I'm still, again, convinced, and I'm not a medical person, nor do I know the medical staff that well at the Union, but I'm convinced that some of that's probably still present, just because it's that level of drop off is just unbelievable from year to year. Jillian, Kyle, thoughts on the defense before we move over to Mr. Semla?
Yeah, and just warning, now that it's like 8:00 here in Vegas, you're probably gonna hear a lot of noise behind us because we're right by the Fremont Street Experience, which is
and it's bumping.
It's bumping. You might hear some callers in the background, Todd.
So
anyway, yeah, I think it has been a big downturn. That I think the point you brought up, Jose, about all that wear and tear Glesnes had. I mean, absolutely. I mean, and I love Todd's comment about Stu. I knew as soon as you said that, I was like, yep. And hey, well, his loan is up at Kilmarnock. Bring back Stu. No, yeah, can you imagine? But I think a lot of it goes back to also, you don't have Andre back there with the positioning and the awareness. I mean, that's part of it, the communication. Zemla's still learning a lot of that. How green he is with that shows at times for sure. But I
think they figured everything out. And I think like we see this a lot with teams that play this, position. I mean, they're tired now. I mean, I agree with Jose. I think Glesnes is, there's a reason Jack and Jacob were never in Premier League. They were not fast enough, and they're getting older and they're getting tired, and the minutes are playing. I mean, I hope that the Union at least give them a kind of shot to see what we have. I know, Jose, you might disagree differently, but
at least let's see what he has. I mean, he's
Yeah.
raw, but
He's
I mean,
very raw. We've seen him
need
in
more
U2.
rotation, and I'm not saying Brandon Craig's the answer, but we need some more pieces there. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's some
are we going
upcoming.
to run Kai Wagner into the ground? I mean, that's another question. That's a
Yeah.
legitimate question. I mean, they're just. I think the guys back there getting tired. We're seeing too many mental mistakes, and we've seen that. And I mean, a guy like Costa's gonna freaking cook. I mean, we saw those 2 goals he scored tonight, man. They were mental mistakes that great players are gonna feed off of mistakes like that.
Yeah, and what'd you think of Bizo?
I mean, he has some nice balls.
I know better than speaking
And I
like
did
that.
that on purpose because of Todd. Because Todd clipped. So Chuck's like, "What's going on?" So there's a soundbite out there floating where, I said that he had a couple nights.
You said that about Kai Wagner.
You said about Kai.
Was it Kai?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
You said Kai had some great balls.
Oh, that's too funny.
But anyway, no, he had some nice plays, but he also got cooked again. I mean, he was getting cooked a lot tonight, and I mean, it's again, he's going to take 1 step forward, 2 steps back every night. That's a Bizo game, You just hope those steps back don't hurt you at the end.
As we spoke about a little bit ago, in terms of high paid players, high price tag players, Pita Musa out at FC Dallas, first ever MLS hat trick today against Minnesota. So a player who's playing to the bill in terms of his value and what he's doing. So let's wrap up tonight talking about Oliver Semla and maybe some final thoughts. What did we think about that performance? Obviously, victim to per Carter Chapley over at FC Cincinnati. Their I guess content writer. He's not quite the sage of Cincinnati. I know he just writes for the website. After talking with Luciano Acosta, he mentioned that Acosta had commented that he doesn't believe that Orellano meant to actually take that shot. So who knows? I don't know what else he would have been aiming at, but he doesn't believe that it was meant to be a shot initially. So for what it's worth, Oliver Semla, a victim to a 50-plus yard shot, something that you don't see often, something that if there's another goal that we haven't seen tonight because we were busy with the Philadelphia Union match, it has to be something extraordinary to beat that out. But Chuck, what did you make of Mr. Semla, fresh out of USL 2, coming straight to MLS?
I mean, tonight sucked, but overall, he's been fine this year. Like, for the most part, he makes the saves you expect him to make. He makes a couple that you don't expect him to make. And it's like in the Andre Blake years, like he's been like the second best backup keeper that the Union have ever had. It's just he's had to play more minutes than you ever expect or want your backup keeper to play. But always, I kind of go back to, I mean, he's not Joe Bendick, so I can't really complain here when, for the most part, like his performances even out. It's just, when you get beaten from midfield, everything looks a lot worse.
Absolutely. Everything does look a lot worse. Todd, thoughts on Mr. Semla? You're muted, my friend.
Yeah.
There you are.
I mean, it's not good. This. I mean, he's essentially a rookie. He's 25 years old, which is crazy saying, he's a rookie. There's some games where he looks really good. There's some games where he looks really bad. And on the first goal, could he have done better? On that Kelsey goal, yeah, I think so. And I'll rewind that a couple times and rewatch and see exactly what happened there. But I think he could have done better. Getting chipped, you should never get chipped from that far out. And I hear what you're saying. The staff writer for Cincinnati is saying that Casa said, I mean, he's not really trying to shoot the ball there, but I don't know. I mean, like you said, Jose, where exactly are you? Where what are you doing? I mean, there's nobody inside the box, so it's like
He's
you're not.
he's not hitting a benchmark to the corner for someone to run onto. It's not high school ball.
You're not trying to clear this ball, so I mean, 100% trying to shoot. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest night from Oliver Zemla. If I could play one more clip though from Jim Curtin talking about the defense, and then he mentioned something that I didn't realize during the press conference, where he started to talk about how the defenders are starting to overcompensate because it's Zemla in the net and not Andre Blake. So, you care if I play that?
I don't care. I must have missed that as I was typing something else. Thank you.
Yep.
Now everything hits the back of the net, and that's just how it is. I think guys are defending a little differently than they normally would to maybe try to help and overcompensate. And we have to remain aggressive, trust each other. And again, if you really evaluate each goal, some strange ones, some flukiness to them, and I thought some very preventable plays in there. So it hurts, but again, we win as a group and we lose as a group.
FC Cincinnati would have something to say about Jim using the adjective fluky on some of those goals, to be fair. Not sure I agree with Jim, because all of those were sort of self-induced. When you think about Kelsey's header, you think about the 50-yard shot, you think about what Acosta did, maybe the penalty shout. Obviously, I know a lot of controversy on that one, but I don't know that fluky is the term to use on all but one of the goals, maybe, right? The penalty shout. I don't
that I would argue is maybe a little bit fluky. I mean, Kubo does a good job to like throw himself in front of Jack Elliott, and Jack Elliott's running straight, and so then he just rolls him over, and it looks like Jack Elliott's left knee took out the backside of Kubo. So I mean, yeah, maybe you can argue that's clumsy, but I think that's just good play there by Kubo. But yeah, right. I mean, so many of these goals we're not used to seeing in years past. Union concede these type of goals that they're conceding, and as much as I dunk on Olivier Baise, now it seems like it's kind of affected the whole squad, where they're just all to blame for these type of goals, just clumsy goals, just so un-Union like. And for this season, I guess it is Union like because they're doing it time and time again.
Now, in another set of news before I turn it over to you, Kyle and Jillian, I did not see this while we were in the middle of the game, but this is sort of relevant in terms of Union verse. Julian Hall, out of New York Red Bulls, 16-year-old, in 87 days. He is the youngest player to score a regular season goal in New York Red Bulls history. Why is that relevant? We have a little something called Kevin Sullivan, who's obviously much younger than that, but it starts to make you think about these, homegrown deals that these kids are getting, or these players are getting, I should say. And sort of the timeline that the Union have with Kevin's a little different than a Julian Hall, obviously, all things considered. But just another neat thing that happened tonight on or in MLS. Kyle, Jillian, Semla, thoughts? And people in the chat, throw in your last minute comments before we wrap up. I know we've kept Chuck up for an hour and 12 minutes just about, and Todd's got to go to work tomorrow morning. And Kyle and Jillian have a flight tomorrow as well. So Kyle, Jillian, your thoughts on Oliver?
Yeah, just to quote Jim Curtin, not good. No, I honestly, he actually has been doing, that's the thing, like he'll do okay. He'll make a lot of decent saves, but some of the mistakes there, he wasn't terrible. It's just that, except for the 50-yard goal there.
I mean, it goes back to, right now he's a rookie. He's fine. He's fine.
He was thrown into this way sooner than expected.
Exactly. I mean, this is one of those games where you chalk it up. Again, he had some brain farts, and some saves that you can say Andre can make. Maybe Andre makes. We don't know. That's Monday morning quarterback.
Andre's gotten chipped before too, but
so at the end of the day, I kind of agree with Jim there. They're overcompensating a little bit. I think that's half the problem. But
it's still better than Bendick.
Yes, it is. But at the end of the day, I kind of agree with Chuck. He's their second best backup we've probably had, and you're lucky to have him right now.
And I'm not ready to put Andrew Rick in either.
And these hard times are only going to help him. And we're going to see eventually. Is he going to be somebody that could be a bona fide MLS starter eventually? Yeah, maybe.
There's
Yeah.
somebody in the media, not going to name names, that thinks it's time to put in Andrew Rick.
Oh, I know.
I know. We're not gonna name names,
No.
but yes.
No, we're not gonna say Kyle. But no, no, I hear you. It's such an interesting situation because yes, although Oliver was not expected to have the number of minutes or play the number of minutes, I should say, that he has, he was absolutely expected to play more than a backup was ever expected to in an MLS season, right? In terms of the tournaments that Andre was going to be in, as well as World Cup qualifiers, never mind some other nations leagues, I think, which happens in October, November, and I think a game or the finals if they qualify in March the following year. I think, Chuck, you're my CONCACAF person. I think it's November, December, and then they go March for the finals. However it works, it's really convoluted nonetheless. He was brought in to eat some of that time, and obviously he's gotten more than was ever expected, but nonetheless he was expected to be someone that sees the field versus, you know, the previous times with Joe Vendick, who you sort of cross your finger and hope that he would probably never come in. But obviously this is his purchase and arrival to the club was by design. What wasn't is these additional, I don't know how many games has Semla played, 13 probably at this point, 12, 13, I can't remember.
Had it up.
I think it's in the
16.
teens. 16. Wow, 16 games. I don't think it was ever expected that he was nice, Vince, that he was ever going to play that many games this early on. But nonetheless, I think he's done okay. But as we wrap up, maybe we can go around the group here and maybe some more comments that filter in. Thank you, everybody. Right now we're sitting at however many people watching. I don't know how to read it anymore. I think it's a 77. We peaked at a higher number, but thanks to everybody who jumped on to watch, jumped on to listen, to Chuck, Kyle, Jillian, Todd, Mike. Let's go around the room with some final thoughts here. Chuck, take it away. Any final comments on tonight and where the team goes from here in terms of fandom and media, in your opinion?
I mean, move on from tonight. I just want something to happen to make all of us happy for a change. A win would be great. I'll take a draw or a signing.
Draw or a signing. That's pretty damn good, Chuck. Todd, final thoughts before we wrap up. Go ahead and hit that button to unmute.
Yeah, check out Views from the Bridge, the one team we agree on, and continue to support AAT Sports and not the free kick.
Todd Lewis, everybody. Now, thank you, Todd. Kyle, Jillian, any final thoughts before you guys probably try to go to sleep at a reasonable time so your flight doesn't feel as awful tomorrow morning?
Oh no, we're flying out like tomorrow at like 10 p.m. So we've got like all day tomorrow in Vegas, pretty much. We're getting in Friday morning.
We're going to a rooftop cocktail lounge to kick in our anniversary,
like midnight
at
Pacific
midnight
time.
Tonight. Yeah,
Tomorrow's our 15th
anniversary. So
Congratulations.
Yeah, I was fully prepared to, celebrate a draw or something, but it's unfortunate because the excitement between the tie brace and Choo-Choo scoring is overshadowed by, of course, the loss and the blunders that led to it. But
no, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
on,
we
guys.
appreciate it, and
good talking with everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll say this: when you're going through hell, keep going. I mean, that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, being a Philly sports fan in general, I mean, kind of used to this. So
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, not good. That is correct.
That keeps on giving.
The soundbite that keeps on giving. Oh my goodness, I'll never forget that night. Yeah, it's interesting, right? And as we wrap up here, just the expectations are so low at this point that I hate to say it, but it really feels like it can't get much lower in a way, but it absolutely can. Tonight was one of those, wow, it really did happen this way, and it did. But nonetheless, the Union come back to Subaru Park this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. against Charlotte, a pretty good Charlotte team this year. frankly, I don't think many, if any, expected that the Union would be looking up to Charlotte in terms of the standings this year, but this is where the Union are. And we'll see. I continue to think that maybe this is an opportunity for this team to consider, I hate to say throwing in the towel, but consider cleaning up house a little bit in terms of some of these players that maybe are ready to make the jump, and rather than, holding them back or anything like that, maybe this is the time for them to make their decision, or tournaments have to happen that may guarantee them a little bit more money in terms of value. But I also can't wait for the Union to win so we can stop talking about the stupid fucking building that is Union Yards, because I am so done hearing about the curse of Union Yards. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I just want it done and over with. But for now, Jose Nunez at Jose R. Yep, there we go. Burn it down. Some raccoon. Jose R. Nunez 91 on Twitter. Is it Chuck Booth? Chuck _ Booth on Twitter.
Chuck Booth Sport, and specifically with no S because there were not enough characters to put an S.
I love it. Todd Lewis with the free kick pod. Todd, where can people find you Twitter wise?
It's a Todd's Life.
It's a Todd's Life. And Kyle and Jillian, the one team we agree on, TOTWAG.
Yep. And then I'm at silly _Chili, and Kyle's at Coach Almany. And thank you, Vince, by the way, for the congrats. We appreciate that. Somehow I've tolerated him for 15 plus years.
Someone had to, and you chose to be that fish for some reason. So everybody, this was a semi-special edition of Across the Pitch After Dark. Obviously, I hate that we continue to gather together after the lowest of the lows. The first time was against the after the 6-0 loss to Pachuca, and now we're what is a terrifying loss to Cincinnati. But for now, thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate you all for tuning in, listening, watching, etc. And we'll catch you guys later.